Hi, I'm Jude Matulich-Hall, and this is Titles, Talk, and Tipples. With me this evening is Martyn Adams from Godalming, England, right? Godalming, yeah. Godalming, England. Welcome, Martyn. He's a steampunk, Edwardian, etc. Novelist. We've got Lance Hunt from New York. He's a fantasy writer and rock and roll writer. And Kenjji Jumanne-Marshall from Michigan. Thank you for joining us. Producer, creator of Frankie, the horror host show, and the graphic novel Witch Doctor. So thank you guys for joining us. This is Doting on Dads. We're celebrating you guys as fathers. And what are you drinking? This is part of the show. We just talk about what we're drinking without using brand names if you can, but if you can't, that's okay too. It doesn't matter really.
So
Go for it. Martyn.
yeah, I went to a restaurant in London some years back on a writing thing. I was looking for an illustrator, and we had this most gorgeous Chardonnay. It tasted like fruit juice, just with a touch of alcohol. In fact, on retrospect, it was so fruity. I wonder if actually that's what they put into the bottles, sneakily fruit juice in that. But it was so nice. Since then, I've been going back and going through all the Chardonnays and all the supermarkets to try and find anything similar.
Oh.
I'm up to this one now, which is not quite as nice as the one I had one I remember in London.
Nice.
But, yeah, it's a Chardonnay.
Kenjji, what about you? What are you sipping on?
I am drinking a Honeycrisp apple soda. It's a gourmet soda. Nice. A chilled glass from Bell's Brewery. Well, I can't say that. You can't see that.
Well, if it's like a local,
it's a local thing.
That's fine. That's fine. Local's great.
So that's what I'm drinking. Gourmet sodas is kind of my thing. I don't drink, so okay. I drink the finest of carbonated beverages.
Very nice. And Lance, how about you? You're the wine connoisseur, I think, of this.
Yes, I actually am certified sommelier.
Ooh, sommelier.
Yes, I could talk to you, Martyn, about where to suggest to go look. This is a Spanish, it's a Albariño from the Rias Baixas region, right on the border with Portugal.
Oh, very nice.
Yum.
Is it yummy? Yeah. What kind of flavors does it have?
This is leaning towards citrus. It's very dry, although it does have a kind of a lush mid palate.
Oh, nice.
Finish. Touch of honey.
Yum. And I am drinking a rosé, and I like my rosés, and I like them at room temperature. So it's not too sweet, not too dry. I've been into rosés for a couple of years now. So all right, cheers to dads all over. Okay, so we're here to talk about you as a creative, as a father, and anything else that comes along. So let's start with Kenjji. Kenjji, you produced Frankie, the horror host show on Public Media Network. You can also catch some episodes on YouTube. How did Frankie start?
Frankie started from me, like I was working. No, I just had access to the cable studio at that point. I wasn't actually working there. And I knew, I had access to cameras. I had access to a TV studio. And I wanted to make a horror show because I realized I was introduced to the public domain. I was introduced to this idea that you could, use these movies for your own purposes and fill up airtime on your own. So Frankie kind of developed out of that idea of wanting to make my own horror show, but not necessarily wanting to be the host.
Mhm.
So I had to build a host. I had to create a host or hire a host. So that's what it turned into. Was first the first season was literally just a brain in a jar, and that was Frankie. And then Frankie developed into this character and this creature into this comic book and the radio show and all of the other things that became Frankie.
Nice.
So at its core, other than the narrative, Frankie was me basically using everything that I had access to kind of flex my own creative muscles, to learn how to edit films, to learn how to produce films, to learn how to shoot films and do soundtracks and make music and make props and hire a cast and crew and write and storyboard and do all of these things, but attach them to a project that would need to be broadcast on a weekly basis. So there was a deadline and there was an urgency to it, a pressure to it that have to do it and have to get it live.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that you're talking about that, because a lot of people don't know that public access television even exists anymore, and it exists in most cities.
Right, right.
And that means you, the people, often can get your stories out there. And it can be something as simple as this, to like what you're saying, something with props. Like we're with Open Signal out of Portland, Oregon. Now it's 2 hours away, but if we actually lived in Portland, we would have access to some of the most top-notch editing equipment and filming equipment, and they let you check out cameras and you can use their sets and all sorts of things, and you can hire, get people into your stuff through them and all sorts of things. So public access TV is awesome.
Oh, no, yep, definitely.
Yeah. All right, so Lance, you released a rock and roll book.
Yes.
And that's what you're talking about here today, right? Oh, it's behind you. A perfect
Well, that's, yes,
blindness.
that is behind. That's what is actually out there in the world. Some other stuff I'm working on. This is a book that I wrote to capture a specific place and time. Late 80s, Chicago alternative music scene. That is it. Industrial music, goth,
Yeah.
living in the streets, in an attempt to show that even people who are kind of waiters, waitresses, low on the level of the humanity, have important stories to tell,
Absolutely.
and in cool milieu. The fantasy that I'm writing, because I really wanted to write fantasy a long time ago, and I've gotten back to it finally, has some nice, fun horror elements in it, including people having memories stolen out of them, out of their minds, real time, and having all their memories sucked out of them so that they're just mindless. So there are elements of that floating around there in the fantasy, but both of them work a lot with memory and how you build yourself.
Okay.
You.
So is memory a passion of yours? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I spent a lot of time thinking about it, writing about it, learning about it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Cool. Very nice. And Martyn, are you here to talk about your children's stories for adults? Your
Children's stories for adults, yes. Started
Okay.
to write them as children's stories, but 3 teddy bears, but the grown-up teddy bear, if you like, the father figure, tended to have a character closer to Blackadder, I think, in a lot of respects. Because consequently, his language was a little too strong for the children's market. So yeah, I've discovered that I'm not really great at writing children's stories in that respect. But it's tremendous actually writing, these 3 bears, the ferocious game. They are like there's a father figure, there's a bear of about 12 years old, so he's enthusiastic about everything, especially impractical things like building atomic bombs and nuclear power stations and whatnot. And then there's the youngest of the bears, who has a mental age of about 4, who's happy to go along with anything and everything, and he's frightened of anything and everything, and he's very, very naive.
Okay.
And yeah, the relationship between the three characters is tremendous. It's great fun writing them.
Very nice. Can we see the cover?
Yeah, sure. This is the book, and that's the standard cover.
The
It's a
Ferocious
collection
King
of
of
18,
Godalming.
no, 15 short stories, I think.
15 short stories.
15 short stories.
Yeah. That's great. All right. And you guys know who I am. So my connections with you guys is Martyn and Lance and I have been in a writing group for 3 years, and we just met through Facebook and started a writing group. And so that's how I know these guys. And Kenjji and I, we actually wrote a full 5-episode series together called Ghoul School. And one day it will be filmed. Oh, yes, it will be filmed.
One day it will live. It will
Yes,
live.
yes.
It will be filmed. But you'll see something, I'm sure.
Yeah, something. Yeah, something's got to happen. You can't put a year's
Yeah,
worth
great
of content.
stories never die. Great stories never die.
That's true. So we
Sorry.
can all go by that, huh?
Yep.
All right. Well, that wraps up part 1.
Act 1.
So I'm gonna, oh, I suppose I should have just segued. So that wraps up part 1. We'll be right back. So don't go into the dark alone. Okay. All right. And we are back with Lance Hunt, Kenjji, and Martyn Adams. So you guys are all dads. That's why you're here when we're celebrating Father's Day, even though it happens a couple months ago. It's always important to dote on your dads. So why don't you talk a little bit about being a creative specifically and fathering? Like, how did those go hand in hand? How did they influence you, et cetera, et cetera? Let's start with Martyn this time. Or wait, did we start with Martyn last time? Sorry. Yeah, let's go. Go, Martyn.
Okay. Yeah, I have a daughter and a stepson, and my stepson was, well, when he was about 6, 7 years old, he was great. He was full of imagination, and yeah, he formed perhaps the basis of one of the teddy bear characters in the books, and he was very positive about things. He wanted a pet ferret, which is a very lively animal, to say the least.
Stinky animal.
Yeah, that's right. Very smelly, very, very lively, very bitey as well. So yeah, we weren't too keen on having that, which upset him somewhat. And my daughter, of course, she had a wild imagination. And my wife had a tremendous imagination as well. So she had a teddy bear, which she would tell stories with the children and keep them enthralled, which was quite the inspiration, really, for the book. And that there are some amazing things that children come up with, which as an adult you would never think that they would. One particular situation which arose was we were sitting having dinner, and my daughter, my wife, and I, and my wife needed to go to the school to pick up Andrew, my son, and she said, "Okay, Christina, get ready. We're going out to meet Andrew." And Christina, she was only about 3 or 4 years old, but she burst into tears. She was inconsolable. We couldn't get her out the door. She was throwing herself on the floor and refusing to get dressed, refusing. And in the end, my wife sort of stood up and she said, "Why? What's wrong? Why can't we go and meet Andrew?" And she said, "I don't want to eat Andrew."
Oh.
Hi.
It misheard, and it was such a wonderful thing. I mean, we were then falling about with laughter, and Christina couldn't understand why, so we had to explain to her that we can meet, not eat. And there were lots of other things like that. My son woke up screaming one night because on the wall beside him was this huge spider. Well, in England, we don't have huge spiders, you know. We're kind of lucky in that respect. But there was this amazingly, it's the size of a dinner plate. And we, middle of the night, we ran in there and we looked at it, and it wasn't. It was he had gone to sleep with his hand up like that, and the light from the hall had cast a shadow on the wall. He'd woken up, seen the shadow, thought it was a spider, and screamed like crazy. Yeah, living with children is absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
Did you write any of those as stories?
Not those particular. No, not those particular scenes. I don't think. I might save them up for another story later on.
There you go.
There are several other incidents in there which I've included in the short stories. Yeah.
Nice. How about you, Lance? Fathering and creativity.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Wrong. Exactly like Martyn. Yes, kids say insane. That was a nice, startling, lightning, thunder.
Oh, are you having a storm?
Yes, we are.
Oh, okay.
Came very close, and wow, that was loud. Okay, now, kids, yes, they like Martyn. They do say like kind of insane things. There was one time when he was, I don't know, 8 years old, and he was pointing, and he said to my wife, "They killed him, Mommy." And I'm like, "Who killed?" And turns out he was pointing at a statue of Christ, right? And she's, well, who killed him? Those bad men, the ones with coins in their butt. And we realized that he was referring to the Hieronymus Bosch's painting of the Garden of Earthly Delights.
Oh.
Have those guys, and it was sitting on our table. And it's referring to those guys as being alive and real. So that was very interesting. And he was, my wife just said he was 4 years old when he said this, so it's even cuter. And then another thing that this is more technical thing is because I used to read to him to put him to sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
He'd go to bed at 9.
Read to your kids.
Yeah.
I'm reading to my kid, and I start going to bed at 9. And I start falling asleep to 9. Even when he gets older, I'm still falling asleep at 9, even though I'm not reading to him. But it allows me to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and do my writing before anybody else in the house is awake. So that has stayed with me since I was like 4 or 5 years old. I go to bed early and I get up early. So that's the other thing that children do.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Kenjji? Any funky stories? Oh, and how old is your daughter, right, Kenjji?
Yeah, my kid just turned 16.
Okay. Yeah, and Lance, how old is your son?
He's 19. He's
19.
from college.
Okay. And Martyn, how old are your kids?
Oh, they're about 42 and 35 now. So
Okay.
I'd rather not say, if you don't mind.
No, that's okay. All right, back to Kenjji.
So yeah, my for me, the challenge for me has been, my creative process is very immersive. Like I as you might see, I want to have my stuff all around. And so when I was doing the Frankie show and my other horror related projects, like I've got pictures of it and I'm making props too. So I've got brains around, and Frankie was Frankie was drenched in rockabilly music.
Yeah.
We also had a radio show, so it was like wall to wall pictures, images, music. So my kid just grew up in it, and it desensitized her for the most part. By 13, she had seen all of the horror movies. She she didn't do and we didn't really show her like slasher movies.
Right.
Slasher movies weren't really interesting to her. She was more into monsters and like monsters and like what would you call it? Like infestation type stuff, like diseases and bugs and that sort of thing. That's the stuff that she was into. So we showed her all of the movies and we tested basically her limits, and her limit is The Thing. The Thing is the one movie that she cannot take. She'll run out of the room. That's where she sets the bar. But other than it's all around, and she's grown up into it. So
Yeah. So speaking of The Thing, have you ever seen the documentary on that movie?
Not that I can remember.
It's like one of the most fascinating what those people did.
Right.
The
Yeah.
makeup artists and
Yeah.
they built I mean, most of the old movies they were building all this stuff. I mean, The Thing went to a whole new level, and a bunch of the stuff got cut. And so they made another movie, I think recently, or maybe within like the last decade or something. And they used the footage that they weren't able to use for The Thing, and that's called Harbinger Down. So
Harbinger
if
Down.
you're into funky movies, and a lot of times for some of us geeks, we'll watch. I mean, I don't like super slasher flicks either, but sometimes I'll watch something gory just because the art that went into making something happen is what interests me. Otherwise, my horror is more gothic horror.
Sure.
But yeah, so if you're a movie fanatic.
My daughter recently proclaimed herself a body horror fan.
A body horror fan. Okay, so is she into like the botched plastic surgery, or more like
I don't know.
Saw?
I don't know, Jude.
Oh.
This is the life of a 16-year-old child. She has her own thoughts and her own genres that she's into, and I can barely scratch the surface. I know what she said. That's what she said. So
Body horror. Okay.
body horror. And for me that means I need to show her some of the classics. I need to show
definitely.
Bergs, and I need to show you body horror if you
Werewolf transitions.
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
That's awesome. Yeah, because
Let's watch Videodrome.
Yeah. Yeah, Kenjji gave me a list of movies I had to watch.
Right.
Before we started writing the episodes. I was like, yeah, I'm not much into like slasher and stuff, but Ginger Snaps is a really good werewolf.
Yes, but the notation was, this is the vibe. Like, I don't want you to copy these,
right?
But just, like, this, the general sense that I'm going for.
Yeah.
Like bad but good.
So do you guys have any characters like loosely based on your kids, or ideas that your kids came up with that you actually use? Because like for me, a lot of the aspects of my universe, like I was stuck in my book for the longest time. I got to page 50. It was taking place modern day detective story, and then my kid got into steampunk and started talking about steampunk. And that kind of, I never thought about writing like fantasy to that extreme. And so that helped me to break through when I had this otherworldly element to bring into my story, besides just like magic and the 1940s. I mean, that's basically what my story was going to be. More modern, not modern, but. So how about you guys? Like anything like that floating around?
Well, yeah, my daughter, I'd written the teddy bear stories, and while I was compiling them, if you like, my daughter suggested I come down to a steampunk festival that they were having just south of London, and I went there, and it's fantastic. I mean, I like to dress up a little differently to
There you go. Yep, the hats make steampunk.
Absolutely. I mean, as a youngster, I was in a band and everything, and I used to like to dress up and be a little bit more flamboyant than most people. And yeah, as you get older, there aren't too many fashions one can really adopt. I mean, having a 70-year-old hippie is, I don't know, it's
About right.
it might work,
It
but I think a lot of people feel a bit uncomfortable, you know, the idea of free love and everything with a 70-year-old guy lurking around, particularly after the scandals we've had over the past 10, 15
Oh
years.
gosh.
So yeah, steampunk was a tremendous opportunity, really, to dress up and express oneself. And I use that. I play music on stage, and I use that as a sort of I don't know, USP, if you like, a unique selling point. So that's my vision or my image. And my daughter introduced me to that.
Nice.
And at the same time, I wrote a series of stories. They're less steampunk and more Victorian science fiction, to be honest. So there's no fantasy, there's no magic, there are no weird and wonderful creatures in there, but they are saying what would happen in a society where steam was still the major technology, and a lot of tropes, if you like, I adopted from 1890 to, say, the 1920s, which is a wonderful period, as I say, for dressing up and for coming up with absurd ideas and things. And I find it fascinating that you do research on that. And there was actually a car in the 1920s, an American car called the Doble, I think it was called,
Yeah.
which could do 100 miles per hour, was deadly silent, could start, you know, within 5-15 seconds, and it was steam powered. It was far in advance of the Model T Ford and all these newfangled oil powered machines. You know, it was a wonderful car, but sadly it was too expensive. And,
Right. Same thing. There were electric cars in the 1920s.
That's right. Yeah. So I kind of took that a stage further, and wrote this book. Wrote a series of books on this. Well, I won't call it steampunk. This Edwardian sci-fi kind of basis. And yeah, my daughter, as I say, gave me the inspiration for that, which was great.
That's great. How about you, Kenjji?
I've never written my daughter into a story, but I think early on there was I took her to see, I think it was King Kong's Skull Island, and at one point Kong comes out and the choppers come in and they start firing on him, and my daughter looks up to me and she's like, "Why are they shooting at him? He didn't do anything wrong." And that moment for me, like it was a really endearing moment for me with her, because like she got it, like even though for the most part the movie presented itself as if that's what should have happened. Big monkey, you should shoot at.
Yeah.
But she automatically got that, you know, this ape had done nothing wrong. It was just in its own home, and you know they attacked it. So it gave me a different perspective when I approached the Frankie stuff and just all the horror stuff I was doing from that point, of where I didn't have to demean the monster. I didn't have to demean the ugly part of the story in order to make it palatable to the audience. I could make the monster the hero. I could have the monster be a heroic thing, or at least an empathetic thing in the story process, and not just, you know, automatically kill it, automatically kill the strange, automatically kill the beast or kill the odd. So that was just kind of something sincere that kind of pushed my creative development from that point on.
Yeah, I think I have like teared up in every Godzilla movie ever made, except for Godzilla Mach 1 or -1.
-1, yes.
Like they kind of made like Godzilla really vengeful in that, but like every other Godzilla movie,
So vicious.
yeah, so vicious. It's like, wow, this is the first Godzilla movie I've never been compassionate for the monster for, you know, yeah, and so Yeah, I totally get that. And that's what was so fun about writing Ghoul School, was because the monsters were the heroes in it.
Monsters were the heroes. Yeah, yeah. There's worse monsters. There's always going to be worse monsters. That's the principle of it. It's like
Yeah.
you can set up the monsters because you can always go worse.
Yeah. Lance.
Yeah, like Kenjji, Max hasn't ever walked on stage,
There you go.
but he has sat out there behind me as I write, sort of his pair of eyes,
Mhm.
reading fantasy, writing fantasy.
Yeah.
But he's still looking down there, and I'm like, how can I appeal to that? Maybe, I don't know, but it's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm indulging, I'm hitting my fantasy stuff because that's what I want to do. But there's the eyes that are always looking, and he's a YouTube head. Matter of fact, he probably got half his education from YouTube.
Yeah.
And
Amazing.
it comes up constantly on dinner tables, and more when he was still in high school, less now that he's in college. But I still hear crazy stuff. And some of those spark ideas that, like, okay, they might end up filtering their way eventually into a storyline or a character, just a comment. But
yeah, my daughter wasn't really interested in much. I mean, she was interested in the stories at first, but then that only lasted a couple of years, and then she was like, now she's illustrating. She's creating a manga.
Oh,
And she showed me some of her art, and it was like, she doesn't show me her art very much, so I totally get the like progression. I get to see the progression, because it's like, oh mom, look at this, and suddenly I'm like dumbfounded by how good she's gotten. And she took some classes in high school, but she's 22 now, and a lot of it's just trial and error of finding people in poses, and like she can draw hands. I guess that's a hard one. But yeah, it's really amazing. Yeah, it might not necessarily ever they might not necessarily like our stuff or copy our stuff, but that creativity is definitely there. We're planting seeds, and they will fruition. And yeah, that's what's important, is planting those seeds.
Max plays bass guitar,
Eh,
right? He also went to the LaGuardia School for Arts and Performing Arts as a fine artist, and has sold some of his work to support Ukraine.
Awesome.
He's a Russian speaker. My wife is former Soviet, so he speaks Russian, and we have friends like that. So he's really good at doing this, but he's ended up in sciences. But still, there was creativity, still is.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons why I think he might not want to read this book is this is about electronic music, and there are no basses. And
You can add bass lines.
It's just not there. There are people who are programming things and doing singing, not up there performing, so maybe he just hated it. I don't know.
That's fantastic. Okay, that concludes part 2 of our chat. Don't go into the dark alone. We'll be right back. And we are back. Kenjji, Lance, Martyn, you guys, I'm going to give you a little bit of a couple of questions. Answer them as quickly as you can without thinking, without thinking. Just let the words come. Pen or pencil, Lance?
Fountain pen.
Fountain pen. Kenjji?
Pencil.
Pencil. Martyn?
Pencil.
Pencil. Awesome. I'm a pencil person as well. Too much scratching out with pens. What do you do when you make a mistake, Lance?
I scratch.
You scratch.
And then, yeah.
Martyn and Kenjji, do you guys have a favorite pencil? Like,
yes. The I think it's by Pilot. It's a Blackwing pencil. It's a black pencil. It's got a flat aluminum tip that holds a black eraser that's also a flat black eraser. You can pull the eraser out and flip it around, stick it back in. Black, yeah.
Nice. Martyn?
I would normally just use a normal long pencil, but I made the mistake of investing in 250 pencils to promote my book on
yeah.
tables, and
with the printing, with the printing.
and they're all about 3 inches long.
Oh, what?
I didn't know
Oh,
that.
no.
I bought 250 of them, and I thought this was a good deal. And now I know why. And
Yeah.
so I'm afraid for the next 50 years, I'm going to be stuck writing with one
There
of
you
these.
go. Give them away with your books at book conventions.
Yep.
So I actually, so I play the violin, and there's a company in Germany called, oh shoot, Ludenbacher. I can't even think of the name of my rosin. Anyway, I'll find it and I'll put it on the bottom. But they sent me a pencil with my rosin, and it's a black pencil, and it's a very dark lead. So, well, I know it's not lead anymore, but very nice and soft, so that you don't have, because we write on stands, right? So we're writing upright like this when we're on our music, when we're in orchestra and we need to do stuff. And so you don't get a lot of pressure. And so it's a very nice satiny graphite, and you don't have to press hard. And it's magnetic, so it has this little copper top, and it's so it can stick to our music stands. And so right now, that's my favorite pencil. I only use it for music, though. I don't actually use it to jot down ideas, but I have lots of Ticonderogas laying around, the good old yellow
Number 2
pencil.
Yeah.
All right. So if you had to choose between Stephen King and Edgar Allan Poe, like to forever read, you could never read the other one, who would you choose, Martyn?
Oh, I think Stephen King, because he's more up to date, he's more modern,
Okay.
and I can relate to that aspect. But having said that, yeah, I think Edgar Allan Poe had some very interesting and sinister, dark ideas. But I think on balance, it'll be Stephen King.
Yeah. Okay. Kenjji, you were nodding when you said Stephen King, but then nodding when he...
So for me, like I can explicitly remember moments where I have become exhausted of reading Stephen King, as much as I love him. Read all of it, but definitely had my moments where I've had to put it down and say, no, this is I've seen some of the patterns.
Yeah.
I've seen some of the patterns, and I'm seeing them again and again, and I need to put this down. Whereas Poe is just such a free thinker. Like some of these thoughts are just coming just straight out of nowhere, and I mean probably the drugs too. I think I could go a lot further with Poe's work for that extended period of time.
Yeah, and actually, we had our last episodes were Edgar Allan Poe episodes. He was actually not a drug addict.
He wasn't drugs? That's just all his mind?
That was all in his mind. He was not a drug addict. That's a big misconception. Yeah.
Crazy.
So, I mean, for the times, he drank and probably did experiment, but it wasn't like full on like
not opium, not like poppies, and not what's the other one? The green thing.
Absinthe. Maybe I think it's possible that he did
little taste of
absinthe. He did probably consume some fun stuff, but I don't, not to the extent that a lot of people think. So myth busted. But that's why we're here, right?
That's exactly why we're here.
How about you, Lance?
I would have to say King. I mean, I've read everything that Poe has written, and a lot of it's really creative. Like the very first science fiction story, the very first murder mystery that as we know it today,
he created genres,
incredibly naive compared to what I read now. So it's like, it's cool, but as historical fact, but not anymore.
It's,
You know, I mean, the Raven, sure. I mean, that will always be the Raven. It's an extremely cool piece. I have read his writing about how he chose to write it, and he's a bit on the extremely arrogant side.
We
Yeah.
actually, yeah,
Yeah.
that was a topic of conversation too in the last episode. And you'd have to watch the full interview to catch it because I think I edited out of the main episode. But a lot of people think that his little essay about the Raven was written after he had talked to a lot of people, and a lot of these ideas were already floating around about the Raven, and then he wrote the essay. And a lot of people think that he made up a bunch of that crap based on what people were talking about. So, and he, you know, and he did poo-poo a lot of other writers and stuff.
Oh yeah.
he was harsh.
Yeah.
I think for good reason, you know, but great. So, let's see. And so how about, these are two completely opposite genres, but Agatha Christie or Ursula Le Guin? If you know who I'm talking about. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. It would be Ursula K. Le Guin.
Okay.
Agatha Christie, it's cozy mysteries is not my thing.
Okay.
It just isn't. And by the way, Lovecraft over either of those two other guys.
Oh, really? Okay. You know, I was actually thinking of throwing Lovecraft into that, but I just wanted two choices. And so
Hands down, Lovecraft.
you would choose Lovecraft over Poe or King.
Absolutely.
Okay. Kenjji too?
I think so. Just on the brand of what I said before, you know, Lovecraft goes even further.
What I love about those original writers is that they had nothing to go on. They were making that stuff up. You know, we still make stuff up, but it always seems to be based on something else. You know, we can't help but to be influenced. How about you, Martyn?
I think Ursula Le Guin. I mean, Agatha Christie was great at the sort of murder mystery, but yeah, as Lance said, there's something cozy. I can't say formulaic, but there's something about them which kind of leave me a bit cold, to be honest.
All right.
Whereas
So you guys are all Ursula Le Guin.
Have a broader palette from what she can pull in. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Ursula Le Guin, but I would choose Agatha Christie just because I love murder.
Wow. Yeah.
I didn't say I love to murder. I just said I love murder.
Right.
You love murder. Terrific.
All right. So Jason, my partner and co-host and co-producer and everything for Bad Juju and J-Bone, he has some stereotypical dad questions for you. Okay. Favorite barbecue, Lance?
You mean things that I barbecue or things that I consume?
Barbecue sauce, things you barbecue, whatever. Or and if you don't, that's okay. These are stereotypical dad questions.
Hey, I like burgers and brats and brisket if somebody else makes it.
Okay.
Texas style.
Kenjji.
In North Carolina, specifically Littleton, North Carolina, where my family's from, the dish we call barbecue is a pulled pork with vinegar. It's usually prepared in a whole pig picking service where they dig a pit and burn the pig and all that stuff. I don't do all that anymore. You can just get pulled pork from the store these days. So my favorite barbecue is pulled pork.
Nice. Martyn?
Coleslaw.
Is this an England thing?
Yeah, well, kind of. We do it very badly, I have to say. I went to a barbecue party some decades ago, and it was crispy chicken on the outside, underdone on the inside.
You
And
can't
that
have
was
underdone
considered-
chicken.
Yeah, it was ghastly. And a friend of mine had a barbecue, and he was an Aussie, and he did it fantastic. And there were all the different kinds of meat. There was pork, steak, sausages, hamburgers, and that sort of thing. Not as classy as Kenjji's stuff, I have to say. It was just done on a straight griddle, and just plonk on the meat, and you know how long it took. I tried it once, and I managed to burn everything. And my family all went indoors and had a decent salad, and I was left there to
Salad.
bury the charcoal remains of my attempt at grilling. So yeah,
Nice.
I think sausages in the end,
Okay.
done by an Australian, properly done.
Okay. How about, are you guys into sports?
No.
No?
Local.
Local? Huh?
Yeah. But no, not if you need to move on, we can move on.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Nobody's in this.
Plants?
Move on.
I'll watch
Okay.
one thing, and that is Ohio State football.
Right, local stuff. Yeah. You got
That's
to.
it.
I support my local roller derby team.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
I
We
mean,
have
you know,
roller derby here too.
you know, rollerball.
Yep.
You remember that? Yeah, that's so. I'm down with that.
Absolutely.
All right. And favorite car.
My favorite car is the one I have at this moment,
Ooh.
which you guys would know as a Miata.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the open top sports car.
Can I get a color on that?
Mine's black. Mine's a brilliant black, and it's the 2011 version. So it has the 2-liter engine. It has the automatic drop head, which folds into the back of the car in 11 seconds or whatever. It's tremendous. And for the 3 days of decent sunshine and summer that we have here, I have the top down, and I go out and I get completely red face and flies stuck in my eyes and whatever. And I absolutely love the car. It's extraordinarily reliable. There's nothing gone wrong with it since I bought it in 2011. The only criticism I have of that car is the fact that it has just one passenger seat. And if I go out to on these retreats, these musical retreats or writing retreats, indeed, I have the guitar and the guitar stands and whatnot in the passenger seat, and all my clothes for the week in the boot, which is surprisingly roomy for such a small car. But I have to say that if I wanted to go for longer than a week and add in a few extra shirts and whatnot, I would need a bigger car. And that would cost me an absolute fortune. So I can't afford that. So I only ever go away for 7 days, 8 days at the most. That's all I can afford. But yeah, the Mazda MX-5, as we call it here, or the Miata, as you know it,
Nice.
is a wonderful car.
Kenjji, your favorite car.
My favorite car is a 1956. Sometimes I go for a 57 Cadillac hearse Seville.
Ooh, yeah.
That's my favorite car. There's one in the area that I've scoped out that I'm waiting for the gentleman to sell it. The current car that I drive is a black Nissan Murano, which is the closest thing I could find to a 1957 Cadillac hearse Seville.
Nice. Lance.
My grandmother's 1964 and a half original edition Ford Mustang. With her name on the plate, white leather interior, blue outside, white rag top.
Nice. That's your favorite car? Do you have it or both?
No, it went to my uncle,
Oh, so it's
but
still
your son. So it's you know, he didn't take very good care of it. So
Oh.
yeah, but that was it. It was the little old lady who only drove it to the grocery store and
Oh
back.
yeah.
That low mileage.
Oh my gosh. Oh
Yes.
goodness. That's nuts.
It's,
Okay. If you were on a deserted island, well, you were going to a deserted island, so you get a heads up. Hey, you're going to this deserted island, and you could only take one book, one movie, and one music album. What would they be? I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think about it. Okay, I think that was about 10 seconds. Kenjji?
I'm gonna bring a sketchbook.
Okay. Oh,
My movie, there's a Jamaican film called Rockers, which is just about Jamaican Rastafarian life. And there's an accompanying soundtrack that goes along with it. So if I'm on an island and I have access to a VCR and a record player, then yep. And some of the other things that might go along with watching reggae movies, that's what it would be for me. A sketchbook, Rockers, and the Rockers soundtrack.
nice. Lance.
Apocalypse Now,
Mhm.
Shadow of the Wind. It's the novel.
Mhm.
Who's that by?
Carlos Luis Zafón.
Okay.
And I'm really torn on this last one, but I'm going to go with Hemispheres.
Mm.
Rush.
Fears, huh?
By Rush.
By Rush. Okay. Martyn.
I think my book would be Trevanian, by Trevanian, called Shibumi. I think it was the first book that introduced me to sort of I don't know, assassins and ways of killing and different lifestyle and that sort of thing, and getting revenge. And it was the start, I think, of that sort of genre that has continued for a while on films and things. Yeah, I think that's my favourite book. Album would be Jethro Tull would be Heavy Horses.
Oh, very nice.
That's got some tremendous musical creativity on there, which I haven't seen. I mean, even the number one. Well, it was certainly a top 10 number. Was it in 5/4? I mean, that's all that unheard of.
Yeah.
Witch's Promise. Is it Witch's Promise? I don't know. No, it's Living in the Past. Yeah, Living in the Past. And what was the third thing?
Movie,
Oh,
book.
Yeah, I'd take a sketchbook as well,
Oh, okay.
because you can write in it, you can
Yeah.
draw in it,
Yeah.
and you can even use it as a thinking thing.
Mhm.
So you can draw boxes and connect them up, and
Sure.
provided I've got some sort of rubber on there to make a pencil.
Yeah.
Mistakes and
Right.
There you go.
Yeah,
Right.
you can come up with these absurd
No
theories.
You guys can take your favorite pencil or your favorite pen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrific. Yeah, and favorite rubber as well, because
Yep.
Fantastic.
eraser. Sorry, eraser. Favorite eraser.
Same thing.
So if someone wanted to find out more about you guys, what you're doing, where can they find you? Kenjji.
Kenjji.com.
Okay.
You can Google Kenjji, and that's me. Kenjji has 2 J's, 2
Mhm.
J's, 1 I. I think I'm hibernating right now, creatively. That there've been some areas where I've popped out recently, but I haven't been working on anything in the now, because I'm hoping to get back to working on stuff moving into the fall.
Nice.
So I mean, I don't want you to stay tuned, because my brand is to really pop up on, like, I want to sneak up on you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you
Yeah.
where I'm going to be. I really want you to be watching cable access at 3 o'clock in the morning, or listening to your radio at 5 a.m. driving from here to there. And I want my stuff to, and I don't even want you to know it's me. I just want you to hear or see something really strange and wonder what the fuck that was. Now, you're
Yeah,
welcome.
that's great. I love finding that stuff.
Yep.
I recently found there's a really awesome punk rock radio show on our local station KMUN. And it's on Tuesday nights, every other Tuesday night. So it's not every Tuesday night, but it's on right after my orchestra rehearsal. And so I'm like 2 hours of classical music and then an hour of punk rock music as I drive home. It's awesome.
I've tried to master the art of sneaking stuff in spaces where nobody's paying attention.
Yeah, that's great. Lance?
Oh, well, for me, it's my website. It's wlancehunt.com. Very simple, very straightforward, exactly like it sounds. It's got my book information, what I'm working on. It's got an audio book. It's got all sorts of fun stuff you can find out about. Plus my blog, where I write a lot about resilience. So
Yeah,
all sorts of cool stuff there with that. And Kenjji, that idea of sneaking up on people, right? You want people to have been snuck up on. Well, one of my friends was a filmmaker. He did a film called Night of the Living Bread, which George Romero licensed to put out in front of Night of the Living Dead. Okay, it's a parody of it or satire of it. I'm not quite sure which. One day I'm at home watching MTV or something like this, and it came up. And I got to watch it, and I got to tell my friend Kevin, I got to see your movie without being told it was on. This was the thing he wanted most in his life. Probably a lot like you. You just want somebody to hear your stuff and go without you directing them, just spontaneous in the wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Free range horror. Yeah.
And are you working on anything now, Lance?
Yeah, I've got 2 books right now. Is Walking the Dark Maker's Way, which is a fantasy, which is a sibling of the Book of Visions, which I started and said I wanted to have a nice free giveaway sort of book for it. And so I started this other book, which has turned into this massive 300-page novel. So it's not a giveaway. It's going to be a novel on its own. So
good. Awesome. And Martyn, how can people find you?
Okay, I'm www.martynadams.info. Martyn spelled with a Y, of course, MARTYNADAMS.info. That's generally about me. So that's got some music things in there as well, some of the poetry and some of the other writing I've done. And that's and it also has a section on there about Milton, the bear I live with. Just bear with me a second. This is,
I was wondering where Milton was. There he is.
Yeah, this is my favourite little bear. Is a tremendous attraction at certain events I arrange, and yeah, my current work, the current thing I'm working on is getting these published. These are steaming up series of books. Number 4 is just about to go to the printers as soon as we're having an election here, as you know, so all the printers are tied up, spewing out all the election bits of paper and whatnot. So I'm holding off on book 4, but as soon as book 4 is done, then I'll be registering those.
Fantastic.
And hopefully they'll be published shortly.
Wonderful.
The Steaming Up series, and they're on the website as well.
Wow. Well, congratulations, you guys. You win first prize. I don't know. It's been great chatting with you, and I hope to chat with you some more. And we'll see you later. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, I'm all in.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, same here.
It's a good gesture.
Thank you, guys. It's great. It's great catching up with you, Kenjji.
Hey, good to see you again. Yeah,
Yeah.
we gotta talk again just soon.
Yeah, we should. All right. You guys have a wonderful evening where you get some sleep, Martyn.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm gonna go hang out with my kid.
Yeah.
You know?
All right. Happy doting on dads.
See ya.
Bye.
It's all right.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.
See you later, Martyn.
See you. Cheers.
Okay.